It was a kind of Louisiana night when the air stuck to your skin and the moonlight danced off the river, where anything could happen, but nobody ever believed it would. Until tonight. Until two dangerous inmates vanished without a trace, and the most unlikely accomplice was the one who opened their cell doors. If you love gripping, real-life mysteries and criminal twists, subscribe now, because this story will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about loyalty, trust, and desperation. Hit the like button so the YouTube gods know you want more stories that go deeper than the headlines. And as you listen, ask yourself, would you have seen the red flags, or would you have missed them like everyone else? Louisiana isn't just a place. It's a mood, a scent, a heat. Down in St. James Parish, the land runs flat and wild, stitched together by highways and sugarcane fields, cypress trees brooding at the river's edge. There, in a little patch of nowhere just west of New Orleans, sits the St. James Parish Detention Center, a low, concrete sprawl built in the 70s and barely upgraded since. By day, it's just another southern jail, tired guards, overworked nurses, the distant hum of cicadas. By night, it's a maze of shadow and echo. Block C is the oldest wing. Its cameras lag, its doors stick, its floors always smell faintly of mildew. On the surface, everything is routine, but beneath, tension simmer. Hold up. Before we dive in, let's introduce the main casts. 1. Deputy Linda Dorsey, late 40s, a steel-nerved lifer with deep ties to the parish and a reputation for fairness. Not much gets past her. 2. Marcus Mac Reynolds, charismatic, 6 feet 3 inches and built like an ex-linebacker, is the kind of guard the inmates like and the warden trusts. 3. Emma LeBlanc, 28, quiet, earnest, and exhausted. She's new, barely 3 months in, struggling to balance work with caring for her sick mother. 4. Troy Red Blanchard, the menace, muscular, tattooed, and rarely without a sneer. In for armed robbery, with rumors of worse. 5. Donnell Duke Johnson, a smooth talker with dangerous friends. Arrested for burglary, suspected of orchestrating hits in New Orleans. 6. Jim Keller, white male, warden of the St. James Parish Detention Center, under pressure throughout the story. 7. Chris Keller, white male, warden's son, part-time IT tech, involved in the jail security system, surrounded by suspicion. 8. Miss Lorraine, Emma's mother's friend. Black female, Emma's mother's best friend and emotional support figure for Emma. June 2022. Emma LeBlanc was supposed to be invisible. The jail was desperate for staff, and she'd taken the job out of necessity, not ambition. Her shifts were long and unremarkable, but stress left her raw, and everyone could see it. She always looked like she'd spend the night worrying instead of sleeping. She moved through her shifts like a ghost, delivering trays, checking doors, handing out laundry, but she had a way of avoiding the spotlight. Maybe that's why nobody noticed when the laundry room was unlocked 2 nights in a row, or when Emma spent a few extra minutes outside Block C, even though she clocked out. Then there was Troy. He watched Emma, never leering, just studying. She tried not to meet his eyes. Donnell, always nearby, started chatting her up. "You look tired, Miss Emma." "Everything all right," he'd say, in that way that made it sound like a real question. Marcus Reynolds teased Emma. "Don't let them get under your skin. They'll eat you alive if you let them." But even Marcus couldn't see what was brewing beneath the surface. Red flags multiplied. A missing roll of duct tape. A security override logged in at 2:56 a.m. but quickly deleted. The kitchen clock swore someone had taken extra meal trays. Linda Dorsey made a note, "Keep an eye on C Block." She'd seen too many small things become big things overnight. July 19th. The day was hot enough to walk glass. That night, thunderhead stacked up on the horizon, promising a storm. The jail ran on backup generators as the main line flickered and failed. The graveyard shift felt longer than ever. At 2:43 a.m., a guard's master key disappeared from the staff lounge. At 2:48, security footage showed Emma entering the laundry room, but the camera glitched out. At 3 a.m., Troy and Donnell's cells were open. No shouting, no alarms, just silence and opportunity. Emma was last seen by Marcus at 3:05 a.m., looking pale and distracted. He asked if she was all right. She muttered something about her mother, then walked down the hall, keys jangling at her side. By 3:17 a.m., the night warden noticed blank screens on Block CS monitor. A minute later, the alarm shrieked. Emma's car was gone from the lot. 2 inmates vanished, and chaos erupted. Within an hour, St. James Parish was crawling with deputies, spotlights sweeping the riverbanks, dogs baying at the water's edge. The warden paced, barking orders. Linda Dorsey organized head counts. Every inch of the jail was searched. Emma LeBlanc's locker held nothing but a folded note. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me." A dozen questions roared to life. Was Emma dead, kidnapped, on the run? Did she open those doors willingly, or at gunpoint? How did 2 of the jail's most dangerous inmates vanish so cleanly? If you're gripped by this mystery already, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell, because as this story unfolds, the truth will keep twisting. The investigation became a media storm. News vans clogged the road outside the jail. The headline, "Inside Job at Louisiana Jail. Who let the wolves out?" The sheriff's office called in state police. Task Force Captain Dana Miller took charge. She started with the basics: timelines, interviews, and security logs. First lead, security overrides. Reviewing the electronic logs, Dana saw a pattern. 4 times in the last month, the alarms on Block C had been disabled for exactly 12 minutes, always between 2 and 4 a.m., always when Emma was on shift. At first, it looked like a glitch, but when she compared timestamps, it was clear someone had learned how to manipulate the system. Second lead, Emma's finances. Dana's team pulled Emma's bank statements. She was always overdrawn, except for one string of deposits in early July: $1,100, $2,000, $4,000. All cash. The money came from a local credit union ATM, no camera in sight. A subpoena for Emma's cell record revealed dozens of calls and texts to a burner phone. The number pinged near the jail, then vanished from the network the night of the escape. Interviews and red flags. Marcus Reynolds was first up. He said Emma seemed more stressed than usual. Said something was wrong with her mom's meds. She kept checking her phone, asking if she could leave early. Linda Dorsey admitted she'd noticed Emma talking to Donnell, and that Troy seemed more cheerful than usual. I chalked it up to the weather. We all get squirrely in the summer. The kitchen clerk said she'd seen Emma take an extra lunch to Block C, said it was for a diabetic inmate, but I never got a name. A nurse remembered Emma asking about sedatives. For her mother, she said, wanted to know if the stuff we give inmates for anxiety would knock someone out. A search of Emma's car, found abandoned outside Baton Rouge, turned up nothing but a coffee cup and her mother's medical file. But in the files folder was a scrap of paper with 2 phone numbers, both disconnected. Troy and Donnell melted into the night, but Louisiana is a hard place to hide. The marshes swallow footprints. The locals don't talk to outsiders. 2 days after the escape, a fisherman called 911, saw a man with a busted arm and another one limping through the reeds. Police converged on the spot and found Donnell muddy, bleeding, and delirious. Troy was still at large. Donnell told the police, Emma helped us because she had no choice. They threatened her mama. Troy's got friends, real bad people. Was he telling the truth, or trying to cut a deal? When Emma finally turned herself in at a Baton Rouge precinct, she was shaking, eyes hollow, asking for a lawyer. She claimed she was forced, blackmailed over her mother's safety, her debts, even over an old shoplifting charge. She'd done everything just to buy time. But the evidence was damning. Security logs, bank deposits, her fingerprints on the master key. Still, questions lingered. Who made those threats? Why didn't Emma go to the sheriff? Was there a second accomplice inside the jail, maybe even Marcus or Linda? A rumor swirled that Troy had stashed cash from an old robbery, and that Emma was promised a cut if she helped. But Emma swore she never took a dime for herself, and the cash was never found. The media couldn't decide. Was Emma a tragic victim or a criminal mastermind? Are you starting to see the cracks in the story? If you think Emma was a victim, hit like. If you think she was in on it from the start, comment below. Let's see who's got the sharpest eye for clues. The case went to trial in a courthouse packed with reporters, locals, and prison guard who wanted answers. The prosecutor painted Emma as a calculating traitor. The defense said she was a pawn, caught in a web of threats and lies. Evidence. The log showed security overrides on Emma's login. Phone records showed hours of untraceable calls. The bank money was never recovered. Testimony. Marcus said Emma had been different than the week before, but insisted she was good at heart. Linda Dorsett told the jury, "I missed it. I missed the signs. If I hadn't, maybe nobody would have gotten hurt." Donnell, under a plea deal, testified that Troy had the real plan, and Emma was desperate, scared, and in way over her head. But Donnell's story changed. First, he said Emma did it for money. Then, he said she did it for love. Controversy erupted. Some locals claimed Emma's family had been threatened by a gang from New Orleans. Others swore Marcus or another guard must have helped, but no evidence surfaced. The DA quietly investigated whether the jail's camera outages were inside sabotage. Emma was convicted of aiding and abetting escape, but the jury split on intent. She got 5 years, eligible for parole in 2. Donnell got 15. Troy, when he was finally caught in Texas, months later, got 30. Emma's mother died during her first year behind bars. The parish replaced half its staff, installed new cameras, and never really recovered. But the rumors never died. Some say Emma still keeps quiet about what really happened, about the second accomplice, the threats, and the missing money. Others believe she was just a scapegoat, that the real mastermind was never caught. As for Emma, she'll carry the scars forever, of choices made in the dark, of a night when the rules bent and broke. But what would you have done in her shoes? Would you risk prison to protect someone you love? Or would you trust the system to protect you, even when the odds are stacked against you? If you want more stories like this, where every answer just leads to more questions, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. And drop your answer in the comments. Is Emma guilty, innocent, or something in between? The night after the escape, dawn broke humid and gray over St. James Parish. Helicopters swept low over the cypress trees, their searchlights slicing through fog that clung to the bayou like a ghost. Deputies in bulletproof vests fanned out, wading through knee-deep water, their boots sucked up by mud as old as the parish itself. Reporters clustered at the jail's gates, microphones extended, hungry for a soundbite. The question on everyone's lips: how did this happen? Who was really to blame? The sheriff's department set up a command post. Inside, the air was thick with cigarette smoke and the buzz of radios. Deputy Linda Dorsey, her jaw set in a hard line, coordinated the manhunt. Maps littered the walls, red string marking possible escape routes, over the levee, along the river, through the sugarcane fields. Dogs caught a scent by the riverbank, only to lose it in the brackish water. Deputies found footprints, 2 sets, one much smaller than the other, leading to the edge of the marsh, then vanishing. Nearby, in the tall grass, lay a single plastic keycard. On the back was Emma LeBlanc's fingerprint, smudged and sweaty. Word spread fast. The girl did it. She's dead. They forced her at gunpoint. She ran off with the money. No one really knew, but in a small town, rumors are as real as facts. By noon, satellite trucks jammed the courthouse square. National news, "Yo," said one old-timer, shaking his head. "Never thought I'd see the day." Cable hosts speculated wildly. Love affair gone wrong. Prison guard held hostage. Was this a criminal inside job? On talk radio, a local preacher thundered, "Lord, watch over that poor girl, whatever she's done, and may justice find the wicked." Social media exploded. Emma's senior photo was everywhere, smiling, awkward, hair pulled back in a frizzy ponytail. The mugshots of Troy and Donnell, scowling, unrepentant, ran beside it, side by side, as if fate itself had thrown these 3 together. If you're watching this and want the real story, not just clickbait, smash that subscribe button and share this video with a friend who loves true crime as much as you do. Because the deeper we dig, the stranger this story gets. Morale at St. James Parish Detention Center shattered. Guards glanced over their shoulders, whispering in break rooms. The warden, a sunburned ex-Marine named Jim Keller, called an emergency meeting. "No one leaves until we get statements. No one. We will find out who was involved, and if anyone's covering, you'll join them in jail." A hush fell. For some, the idea of a colleague, A sweet, overworked girl like Emma, betraying them was unthinkable. For others, it made too much sense. Guards were grilled one by Captain Dana Miller and her state police task force. Marcus Reynolds was up first. He ran a hand through his hair, voice low. She seemed lost lately. Said she was worried about bills, about her mama. I asked if she needed a loan. She smiled but said she'd figure it out. When pressed, he admitted, "Yeah, I saw her talking with Donnell a few times. Laughed, even, but I didn't see nothing illegal." Linda Dorsey was sharper. "I thought maybe she was in over her head, but she's an adult. You never want to believe a guard is helping the inmates. I missed it. I'll own that." Others told the same story. Emma was quiet, polite, never raised her voice. But there were those small things, a missing key, a door that didn't latch right, a guard who covered for her so she could call her mom. As detectives pored over security logs, patterns emerged. Security overrides. 4 separate occasions in June where alarms in Block C were overridden, all within Emma's work shifts. At the time, staff assumed it was system glitches. Cash deposits. Bank records showed a steady stream of small cash deposits, all for someone earning $13 an hour and drowning in medical bills. The master key. The missing key was found at the bottom of a mop bucket in the laundry. It had been wiped clean, but a single eyelash cord in the hinge matched Emma's DNA. More chilling was what detectives didn't find. No sign of forced entry. No evidence of violence. No proof Emma was held at gunpoint, at least not inside the jail. But outside? That was another question. For 3 days, the search went nowhere. Emma's battered blue Chevy was found parked outside a Baton Rouge bus station, door unlocked, backseat strewn with fast food wrappers and a Bible. Her phone pinged once, briefly, then went dark. Her mother, frail and bedbound in a local hospice, told police Emma would never run. She's scared of her own shadow. If she helped those men, Lord forgive her, she had a reason. A tip came in. A waitress remembered serving Emma in a diner north of the city. She kept glancing at the door, barely touched her food, paid cash, left a 20 on the table. Surveillance footage showed Emma, hunched and anxious, glancing at her watch. Alone. That night, she turned herself in, exhausted, sobbing, desperate. At the Baton Rouge precinct, detectives brought Emma a cup of coffee. She wrapped her hands around it, shaking. "Why did you do it, Emma?" She didn't answer at first, just stared at her hands. I was scared. Donnell said he knew where my mom lived. Said bad people would hurt her if I didn't help. She claimed Donnell and Troy threatened her repeatedly, showing her photos of her house, her mother's nursing aid. They told me I'd be safe, that it would be over quick. I just had to open the door. I didn't want anyone hurt. I didn't take any money. Detectives pressed her. Why didn't you tell anyone? I couldn't. They said they had people in the jail. Said they'd know if I talked. She insisted. She never planned the escape. She never met anyone outside the jail. She was just following instructions to protect her mother. But her story had holes. She couldn't explain the cash deposits, the key card, the phone calls, the burner numbers. Donnell was captured 2 days after the escape, barefoot, feverish, limping from a twisted ankle. His story changed every hour. First, he claimed Emma was in love with Troy and did it willingly. Then he said Troy was blackmailing her, threatening her family. Finally, he admitted, "I don't know, man. Maybe she just snapped." When police finally caught Troy Blanchard 6 weeks later, hiding in a friend's attic in Beaumont, Texas, he was silent. He refused to answer questions about Emma. Lawyers called it a classic prison conspiracy. Some suggested Emma was part of a gang's plan to bust Troy out. Others said she was a pawn in a much bigger game. If you're still with us, comment below. Do you believe Emma's story? Or was she playing everyone the whole time? We want to hear your theories. And don't forget, there's more to this case, so hit like if you want the full, unfiltered truth. St. James Parish split down the middle. The poor Emma camp. She's a good girl who was trapped. They preyed on her kindness. The local church set up a GoFundMe for her mother's medical bills, and her high school friends wore ribbons on their sleeves. The lock her up crowd. She let monsters loose. She deserves what she gets. Victims of past crimes by Troy and Donnell's gang showed up at rallies, demanding maximum punishment. In the middle, the guards, torn between anger and guilt. Marcus Reynolds was called a hero by some, blamed as a fool by others. He started drinking more, left the job 6 months later. Linda Dorsey stayed, but the experience hardened her. She never again trusted a new hire without checking twice. As the investigation goes deeper, detectives dug into the possible network inside the jail. Was Emma the only inside man? Or were others involved? They found the security system had been rebooted remotely on the night of the escape. IT logs show the command came from a staff computer. Another guard's badge was used to access Block C at 2:46 a.m. The guard, when questioned, insisted he'd left it in his locker all night. But no concrete evidence linked anyone else to crime. In the weeks after the escape, rumors swirled about a missing bag of cash. The story went like this. Years before, Troy had robbed a pawn shop in Blackmail, Louisiana. He'd never been charged, but everyone knew he'd stashed the money somewhere and never recovered it. Some said he used the promise of a cut to lure Emma. Others said the whole thing was a lie. When police finally searched the storage unit Troy rented under a fake name, they found nothing but old clothes and a waterlogged notebook, its pages smeared, but one word legible: Emma. The missing money was never found. It was almost a year before Emma's trial began. Reporters packed the courtroom. True crime podcasters took notes in the back row. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, kept a tight leash on the proceedings. The prosecution painted Emma as a mastermind, someone who played helpless, but pulled every string. The defense argued she was a classic victim, manipulated and blackmailed. Witnesses took the stand. Marcus Reynolds: Emma was overwhelmed. I should have seen the signs. Linda Dorsey: we failed to protect one of our own. Donnell Johnson: in shackles, he told 3 versions of his story, each contradicting the last. Emma wept as the prosecution replayed the security footage of her entering the laundry room, keyring in hand. The evidence was damning, but the motive was cloudy. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict: guilty of aiding and abetting an escape, not guilty of conspiracy for profit. Emma was sentenced to 5 years, with parole possible in 2. Donnell and Troy, both with long records, faced decades behind bars. Outside, protesters held signs, some reading "Free Emma," others demanding no mercy for traitors. But the parish still buzzed with questions. Who rebooted the security system? Was there another guard in on it? Did Emma ever see a dime of the missing money? Did she really have a choice? Even now, nobody can say for sure. If this case leaves you with questions, you're not alone. The courthouse emptied into a heavy dusk. Emma was led away in cuffs, eyes hollow but unbowed, as the first flashbulbs popped outside. In the crowd, some wept, others cheered. The only thing louder than the arguments in the courthouse square were the arguments erupting in kitchens, bars, and church parking lots all across St. James Parish. True crime channels picked up the story, splashing Emma's face and the phrase "jailbreak angel" or "traitor" on every thumbnail. The case went viral. In local diners, older women shook their heads. That poor girl never stood a chance. Men at the VFW scout: she's as guilty as the rest. Online, hashtag split in 2. #Justice for Emma. #lock her up. For the first time in her life, Emma was on the other side of the bars. Prison was another world. The food was worse, the guards harsher, and the inmates divided. Some respected her for her role in the escape. Others saw her as a traitor to her badge. She kept her head down, worked in the laundry, and tried to keep to herself. But word of her trial followed her. Sometimes letters arrived from strangers, some begging for the truth, others cursing her for what she'd done. Emma wrote back to her mother's best friend, Miss Lorraine: I only ever wanted to help. If I could go back, I would have told someone. Maybe none of this would have happened. As months dragged on, she heard whispers. One of the guards from St. James Parish Detention Center was asked to resign. Marcus Reynolds had moved out of state, leaving no forwarding address. Linda Dorsey stayed but was passed over for promotion. Emma's new lawyer, a sharp-tongued advocate named Celeste Hart, filed an appeal almost immediately. The grounds: the prosecution failed to prove Emma wasn't coerced. Key evidence: like the IT logs of missing camera footage, was never explained. Celeste demanded to know why the reboot command for the security system came from an admin terminal in the warden's office at exactly 2:44 a.m., just before the escape. The warden, Jim Keller, had an alibi at home with his wife, on the phone with the sheriff during the power outage. But his son, a part-time IT contractor for the jail, didn't. Investigators quietly re-examined the logs. The warden's son, Chris Keller, admitted he was in the office at night updating software, but denied knowing about the escape. Was this just incompetence, or a piece of a much bigger puzzle? While Emma waited for the appeal, journalists dug deeper. Podcast host Rachel Monroe ran a 6-episode series called Unlocked. She interviewed former inmates, guards, and Emma's old teachers. Her most explosive discovery: Donnell Johnson had received a call from a restricted number 2 days before the escape, traced back to a prepaid cell in New Orleans. The same number contacted Chris Keller's phone the night of the jailbreak. Rachel's show suggested that Troy Blanchard wasn't the real mastermind. He was the muscle. Donnell was a voice. But the money, the planning, that came from outside. The missing cash, according to Rachel, was likely laundered through a pawn shop in Baton Rouge. The owner, interviewed for the podcast, claimed he'd never seen Troy before, but records showed a $10,000 cash deposit the week after the escape. Still, none of this could be proven in court. The DA declined to reopen the case. Emma's supporters doubled down. Petitions circled for her release, now claiming a corrupt system set her up to take the fall. Her church hosted candlelight vigils. True crime fans on YouTube, Reddit, and TikTok argued every possible theory. Emma was a pawn, nothing more. She was in on it all along. This is a cover-up for something bigger. Meanwhile, the families of Troy and Donnell's past victims demanded the system make an example of Emma. You let out a monster. That's all we need to know. The sheriff's office, desperate to restore public trust, fired 2 more staffers for procedural violations. The state of Louisiana sent consultants who reformed St. James Parish Detention Center. New cameras went up. Every staff member got background checked again. But confidence was slow to return. 6 months after Emma's conviction, an anonymous tip was phoned into the sheriff's office. A woman's voice said, "Check the old Miller place, Southfield. You'll find what you're looking for." Detectives drove out to the abandoned farmhouse. In the attic, behind a rotten wall, they found a plastic bag with $8,400 in 20s. Next to it was a slip of paper. "For Emma. I'm sorry." Fingerprints came back as a partial match to Donnell Johnson. Emma's lawyer pounced on the news, arguing this proved her client never got the money and that Donnell, or someone else, was pulling the strings. But the prosecution shot back. The money could have been planted. No direct evidence linked the bag to the escape. It was another layer of mud on an already murky story. From prison, Troy Blanchard began sending letters to a local journalist, Calvin Duvall. Troy, known for lies and manipulation, now seemed eager to talk. He wrote, Emma didn't want to help. Donnell put her up to it. He told her he'd hurt her mother if she didn't cooperate. I thought it was all a bluff, but Donnell could be scary. I planned to escape for months. But without someone inside, we never would have made it. There was a guy who came around the jail kitchen sometimes. White dude, beard, delivery driver. He passed messages to Donnell. Never saw him again after the escape. Detectives tried to verify Troy's claims, but the jail contractor log from that month were missing due to a system update. Was this a confession that could finally clear Emma? Or just more manipulation from a convicted criminal? In prison, Emma found herself both a pariah and a minor celebrity. A few inmates offered sympathy, others scorn. Her days blurred into each other. Work detail, meals, phone calls with Miss Lorraine, the endless background noise of jailhouse rumors. She wrote poetry, tried to keep hope alive, and waited for the next hearing. Linda Dorsey, still working at St. James, became a minor local celebrity after an interview went viral. You think you know your coworkers. You think you know yourself. Then something like this happens, and nothing's ever the same. She visited Emma once, through bulletproof glass. I'm sorry, Emma. I wish I'd seen it coming. Emma just nodded, tears in her eyes. Then came one more twist. Chris Keller, the warden's son, was found dead in his apartment, an apparent overdose 8 months after the escape. Police called it an accident, but whispers spread that he'd been silenced. Investigators reopened the internal probe, but again found nothing solid. His laptop, seized as evidence, was wiped clean. With Chris gone, many believed the last person who might have known the truth about the security breach had taken his secrets to the grave. A year after Emma's conviction, the appeals court upheld her sentence. Insufficient evidence of coercion, the judge wrote. No proof another staff member committed a crime. Emma's hope faded, but her story did not. St. James Parish Detention Center became a case study for correctional reform. New leadership, new tech, but the scars lingered. Staff were trained in trauma and manipulation detection. The sheriff's office instituted whistleblower protocols and anonymous tip lines. A mural of Emma's mother was painted at the hospice, honoring a woman caught in the crossfire. Emma's old church held an annual fundraiser for victims of wrongful conviction. Podcasts and YouTube videos about the St. James Jailbreak racked up millions of views. Some said it was proof that justice was blind. Others, that justice was broken. If you've made it this far, you're clearly a true crime detective at heart. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Emma have gotten a new trial? Who do you think was the real mastermind behind the escape? And don't forget, subscribe so you don't miss out on future uploads of similar stories. It's been 3 years since that muggy July night changed St. James Parish forever. The cypress trees still watch over the slow-moving river, and the old jail still sits like a stubborn scar on the edge of town. But nothing and no one is quite the same. Emma LeBlanc has survived her time in state prison. She's older, thinner, hair now streaked with gray. Inside, she's found allies and made peace with a handful of enemies. She teaches a GED class, helps with the chapel choir, and stays out of trouble. Every so often, a new inmate recognizes her name. Sometimes they want a story, sometimes they want to fight. For a long time, Emma waits for word about her appeal, but it never comes. Instead, she learns to count her blessings. A letter from Miss Lorraine, a sunbeam through the window, an apology from a former guard, slid into her cell with a cup of cold coffee. But questions still swirl around her, especially after the death of Chris Keller, the warden's son, whose laptop went to the grave with its secrets. Was Chris a pawn or the architect? Did he owe money to someone who needed Troy and Donnell out, or did he simply make a mistake in panic? The parish still debates it, sometimes heatedly, sometimes in hushed tones, as if the wrong word might call trouble down from the trees. One afternoon, Linda Dorsey, now semi-retired, spending more time gardening than guarding, receives a battered envelope with no return address. Inside is a flash drive and a single line. Truth matters, even when nobody's listening. On the flash drive is a recorded phone call, dated 2 days before the escape. The voices are unmistakable. Donnell Johnson. It's all set. The girl's scared. Told her we got eyes on her mama. Unknown male. Make sure she does what she's told. The money's in place. If she gets cold feet, remind her. For the first time, investigators have undeniable evidence that Emma was coerced, and that Donnell was reporting to someone else, a voice no one can immediately identify. Linda takes a recording to the state police. There's a brief media stir, but the DA, citing procedural closure, declines to reopen the case. Still, the court of public opinion shifts again. Supporters rally, demanding Emma's sentence be reduced. Even some who once called for her head now admit maybe she never had a choice. After serving 3 years and 4 months, Emma is granted parole for good behavior and time served. On the day of her release, a small group gathers outside the prison gate. Miss Lorraine, Rachel Monroe, the podcast host, and Linda Dorsey, who's driven 2 hours just to see Emma step free. She walks out with little more than a cardboard box and a faded Bible, squinting in the sudden, harsh light. There are reporters waiting, but Emma says nothing. Not that day. Not for weeks, as she moves into a borrowed room above the old church and tries to find her footing in a world that's changed while she was away. What happened to the others? Troy Blanchard remains in maximum security, serving out his decades-long sentence. He's given a handful of jailhouse interviews, sometimes insisting he was a mastermind, sometimes blaming everyone else. Donnell Johnson was transferred to another facility after an attack left him hospitalized. Before his move, he told a prison chaplain he wished he'd never listened to that man on the phone, but refused to say more. Marcus Reynolds resurfaces in Georgia, working private security under a new name. He gives one interview, years later, to a YouTube channel. Emma didn't deserve what happened. None of us saw it coming. The system failed her, and us. Linda Dorsey finally retires, but not before helping draft a new statewide policy for reporting staff intimidation and outside threats. She says she'll always wonder if she could have stopped it. The warden, Jim Keller, quietly steps down, moving north to manage a small halfway house. Some say he was complicit, others say he was just a man in over his head. After Chris's death, he's rarely seen in public. The case becomes legend. True crime YouTubers, podcasters, and bloggers revisit the St. James Escape every year on its anniversary. Some focus on the facts, others on the myths. Did the real Mastermind ever face justice? How much money changed hands? And where did it go? Was Emma just a pawn, or did she make one desperate choice too many? Did Chris Keller's death tie up a loose end, or leave 100 more? For every new exclusive or smoking gun, there are a dozen unanswered questions. The case inspires a made-for-TV movie, a best-selling book, and endless debate. New details emerge now and then. A witness comes forward. A scrap of evidence leaks. Another rumor flickers and dies. But the core truth remains as slippery as a bayou mud. It takes months before Emma agrees to an interview. When she finally does, it's with Rachel Monroe for a documentary segment streamed to millions. Sitting on a folding chair in her tiny apartment, Emma looks older but resolute. Her hands twist in her lap. I'll never get those years back. I lost my mother. I lost myself, for a while, but I never wanted to hurt anyone. I was scared, and I made a choice. I wish I'd been braver. I wish I'd told someone what was happening. Maybe none of this would have happened. If you're ever in trouble, if you ever feel alone, don't keep it to yourself. There's always someone who'll listen. There has to be. Her words spark a new round of support online. Survivors of abuse, coercion, and manipulation share their stories. The St. James case becomes a rallying cry for criminal justice reform. And yet, the mysteries endure. The unidentified man on the phone is never conclusively named. The cash trail dries up. Some believe there's still someone out there, pulling strings, watching from a distance. The town of St. James returns to its routines. The jail, now fully modernized, stands silent most nights. Yet the memory of that summer lingers, as if the air itself remembers. So, after everything you've heard, what do you believe? Was Emma truly an innocent caught in a web spun by others? Or do desperate choices make us complicit in the darkness we're trying to escape? If you found this story as compelling as we did, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more deep-dive true crime mysteries. Smash the like button to help more people find this story. And, most importantly, share your thoughts in the comment below. Do you think justice was truly served in the St. James Escape? Or is a real villain still out there, hiding in plain sight? If you were Emma, what would you have done? Let's get the debate started. Thank you for joining us for this journey through mystery, justice, and the gray spaces in between. For more real stories that ask hard questions, don't forget to subscribe. And remember, sometimes the truth is just a beginning.